Welcome, brave wanderers, to Abyss of Horror, where the veil between our world and the inexplicable is thinnest. Tonight, we descend into the harrowing world of real-life exorcisms, a realm where the lines between faith, fear, and the supernatural blur into oblivion. Imagine for a moment the sheer terror of being imprisoned within your own body, a puppet to forces beyond our understanding. What if the darkest entities whispered not from under your bed, but from within your very soul? We journey through history, unearthing the most bone-chilling accounts of exorcisms. These are not mere stories. They are echoes of real agony, battles fought against unseen foes that lurk in the depths of the human psyche. From the tortured cries of Anneliese Michel, whose screams still reverberate through the annals of the supernatural, to the eerie case of Roland Doe, which inspired the spine-tingling classic The Exorcist, and the enigmatic ordeal of Julia, defying the boundaries of science and reason. Each tale is a thread in the tapestry of the macabre and the otherworldly. Prepare to embark on a journey where the boundaries of belief are tested, and the horror of reality surpasses the darkest of fictions. Now, be still and quiet, and prepare to delve deep into the abyss of the unknown. Number 1. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel. In the shadowed corners of history, where the veil between the living and the spectral thins, lies the haunting tale of Anneliese Michel, a narrative so deeply unsettling it has etched itself into the annals of the supernatural, a grim reminder of the fragile boundary between our world and that which lies beyond. The year was 1970, in the heart of Bavaria, Germany. Anneliese, a mere 16-year-old, stood on the precipice of an abyss that would soon engulf her. A devout Catholic, her life was unmarred by darkness until the day she experienced her first seizure. It was a convulsion that transcended the bounds of medical understanding, marking the beginning of an odyssey into a nightmare. As years passed, Anneliese's condition deteriorated. The seizures became frequent, and she began to suffer terrifying hallucinations, her reality morphing into a panorama of horror. She reported seeing demonic faces during her prayers, taunting her, twisting her faith into a grotesque caricature. Her behavior grew increasingly erratic. She was heard speaking in voices that were not her own, languages she had never learned. By 1973, the sinister transformation was undeniable. Anneliese, once a vibrant young woman, was now a vessel for something far more malevolent. Desperate, her family sought help from the church, convinced she was possessed by demons. The church was initially reluctant, but the relentless torment Anneliese endured swayed their judgment. In 1975, two priests, Arnold Renz and Ernst Alt, were appointed to perform the exorcism. The rite of exorcism, an ancient ritual, was believed to be the only hope. What ensued was a grueling ordeal that spanned over 67 rites across 10 harrowing months. Each session was a descent into a chilling spectacle. Anneliese's voice transformed, becoming a chorus of guttural tones that belonged to the legion of demons she claimed inhabited her. Names like Lucifer, Judas, Nero, and Hitler were uttered in these unearthly dialogues, each voice distinct, each filled with malevolence. Her physical appearance became as tortured as her psyche. She exhibited superhuman strength, often requiring restraint. She contorted her body in ways that defied human anatomy, her eyes burning with an unholy fire. The sight was so disturbing that it haunted those who witnessed it, a tableau of pure, unadulterated horror. Anneliese's suffering was not confined to the spiritual realm. She began to inflict harm upon herself, biting, hitting, and even consuming insects. Her refusal to eat was attributed to the demons forbidding her, leading to her body becoming emaciated, a skeletal shadow of her former self. Audio recordings of the exorcisms capture the chilling atmosphere of these sessions. The tapes, a harrowing testament to the darkness that enveloped Anneliese, are filled with her screams, prayers, and the inhuman voices that spoke through her. The air in those recordings is thick with despair, each session a battle waged in the depths of an unseen hell. As the exorcisms progressed, the toll on Anneliese's body became increasingly evident. She grew weaker, her physical form withering as if drained by the very entities that claimed her. Her eyes sunk into dark hollows, and her movements became labored, as if she was carrying an immense weight. Despite the intensity of the rites, the manifestations of possession only intensified. Anneliese exhibited a disturbing aversion to religious objects. Crucifixes, holy water, and relics seemed to burn her, eliciting visceral reactions of pain and anger. Her voice at times echoed with a mocking tone, as if the demons inside her were ridiculing the efforts to cast them out. The most disturbing aspect of this ordeal was Anneliese's own conviction in her possession. She expressed a willingness to suffer, seeing herself as a vessel for atonement. This belief only deepened her resolve to endure the exorcism, despite the physical and mental toll it exacted. In the summer of 1976, the situation reached a tragic crescendo. Anneliese's health had declined to a critical state. She was emaciated, dehydrated, and physically weakened to the brink of collapse. Yet, the exorcisms continued, her family and the priests clinging to the hope that salvation was near. On July 1st, 1976, the battle that raged within Anneliese Michel came to a haunting end. She succumbed to malnutrition and dehydration, her body no longer able to sustain the strain of her ordeal. Her death sent shockwaves across the world, raising questions about the nature of possession, the practice of exorcism, and the intersection of faith and mental health. The aftermath of Anneliese's death was mired in controversy and legal battles. The priests and Anneliese's parents were charged with negligent homicide, leading to a high-profile trial that delved into the murky waters of religious beliefs, psychiatric evaluation, and the boundaries of spiritual and medical intervention. The court heard recordings of the exorcisms, witness testimonies, and expert opinions from both psychiatric and theological perspectives. The defense argued that Anneliese's possession was beyond medical understanding, while the prosecution contended that she suffered from psychiatric disorders, likely epilepsy and psychosis, which were exacerbated by the exorcism rituals. In the end, the priests and Anneliese's parents were found guilty of manslaughter due to negligence and were sentenced to 6 months in prison, later suspended, and 3 years of probation. The verdict did little to quell the debate that surrounded the case, a debate that continues to this day. Anneliese Michel's story remains a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of human understanding. It blurs the lines between faith and madness, between the spiritual and the corporeal. Her voice, immortalized in those haunting recordings, echoes through time, a spectral reminder of the dark saga she endured. The tale of Anneliese Michel, etched in the annals of the supernatural, invites us to ponder the depths of belief, the power of the unseen, and the indomitable spirit of a young woman caught in the crossfire of an ancient ritual and modern skepticism. It is a story shrouded in sorrow, a somber ballad of a soul lost to forces beyond our comprehension. Number 2. The Exorcism of Roland Doe, Robbie Mannheim. In the late 1940s, in a quiet American suburb, a story unfolded that would ripple through the annals of the supernatural, leaving an indelible mark of terror and mystery. The case of Roland Doe, a pseudonym to protect the true identity of a young boy, stands as a chilling testament to the inexplicable and the ominous. Roland's life was unremarkable until the death of his beloved aunt, a spiritualist who had introduced him to the world of the occult, including the use of a Ouija board. It was after her passing that darkness began to seep into Roland's life, an unseen force that would soon consume him and those around him. The first signs were subtle yet disturbing. Objects in the house began to move inexplicably, often in Roland's presence. The sound of dripping water would echo through the rooms, yet no source could be found. His bed would shake violently at night, and scratching noises crept from the walls as if something sinister lurked just beyond. As the weeks progressed, Roland's behavior started to change drastically. He would enter into trance-like states, his body rigid, eyes rolling back, uttering phrases in languages he had never learned. His voice would transform into a guttural growl, sending shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Physical manifestations began to appear on his body. Strange marks and words that seemed to be etched into his skin from within, as if branded by an unseen hand. He exhibited superhuman strength, breaking restraints and throwing objects with terrifying force. The family, desperate and terrified, sought help from doctors and psychiatrists, but the medical community was baffled. Their inability to provide an explanation or cure led the family to turn to the church, convinced that Roland was in the grip of demonic possession. The Catholic Church, after much deliberation, approved a series of exorcisms. The appointed priest, Father William Bodern, assisted by several others, including Father Walter Halloran, embarked on what would become a grueling series of rites to free Roland from the entity that claimed him. The exorcisms were held in secret, but accounts of those present paint a harrowing picture. Roland would often speak in that guttural, demonic voice, mocking the priests, revealing secrets about their lives he couldn't possibly have known. He would react violently to any religious provocation, his body contorting in unnatural ways, his face twisting into grotesque expressions. One of the most chilling occurrences during these sessions was the movement of objects. Books and furniture would fly across the room, crucifixes would bend and twist, and holy water would boil upon touching Roland's skin. The air would turn heavy, charged with a malevolent energy that those present could feel palpably. Throughout the exorcisms, Roland's physical and mental state deteriorated. He would lash out, spitting, biting, and screaming obscenities. The words hell and evil appeared in raised red welts on his body. Witnesses described a shadowy figure that seemed to loom over him during the rituals, a manifestation of the demonic presence within. The battle between the priests and the entity inside Roland was a marathon of endurance and faith. Each exorcism drained the participants physically and spiritually, yet they persisted, driven by a determination to save the boy from the clutches of darkness. After several weeks and over 30 exorcism rites, a breakthrough occurred. During what would be the final exorcism, the room filled with a blinding light, and a loud, clear voice echoed, proclaiming the entity's departure. Roland's body went limp, and when he awoke, he had no memory of the events that had transpired. Roland's recovery was gradual, but he returned to a normal life, free from the demonic oppression that had tormented him. The priests who had performed the exorcisms were deeply affected by the experience, some forever changed by what they had witnessed and endured. The case of Roland Doe, while not widely publicized at the time, became a source of intense interest and debate in the following years. It inspired the novel and film The Exorcist, bringing the concept of demonic possession into the public consciousness in a profound way. Skeptics and believers alike have dissected the case, searching for explanations. Some argue that Roland's experiences were the result of psychological issues, perhaps exacerbated by the grief of losing his aunt. Others point to the detailed accounts of the exorcisms and the physical phenomena that accompanied them as evidence of a supernatural encounter. What remains undisputed is the profound impact of Roland's story. Those involved were left with deep emotional scars, their lives forever altered by their confrontation with a force that defied explanation. The priests, once confident in their faith and understanding of the world, found themselves questioning the very nature of reality and the presence of evil. The story of Roland Doe, a tale shrouded in mystery and darkness, challenges our perceptions of the spiritual and the corporeal. It serves as a stark reminder that there are realms beyond our understanding, where forces beyond our control can irrevocably change the course of a life. Number 3, the exorcism of Julia. The case of Julia would challenge the very foundations of rational thought. detailed by Dr. Richard E. Gallagher, a respected psychiatrist, Julia's story is a journey into the heart of darkness, an encounter with forces beyond the realm of the ordinary. Julia, a pseudonym used to protect her identity, was an enigma wrapped in a riddle. To the outside world, she was an average woman, but beneath this mundane exterior lurked something inexplicable and terrifying. Her case first came to the attention of Dr. Gallagher, a man of science and skepticism, when religious figures sought his expertise to discern the nature of her affliction. From the outset, Julia's situation defied logical explanation. She exhibited extraordinary strength, far beyond the capability of a person her size and build. During episodes, she would hurl objects and even people across the room with a force that was inhuman. Her voice, usually soft and feminine, would transform into a deep, guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the depths of hell itself. But it was not just her physical prowess that confounded those who witnessed her episodes. Julia displayed an unnerving ability to know intimate details about people's lives, secrets she had no earthly way of knowing. She would whisper these secrets in her demonic timbre, leaving those around her shaken and disturbed. Perhaps the most disturbing of her abilities was levitation. On more than one occasion, during the height of her trances, Julia would rise from the ground, her body suspended in the air as if gravity had ceased to exist for her. This phenomenon, witnessed by seasoned professionals, added a layer of supernatural fear to her already mysterious case. As Dr. Gallagher delved deeper into Julia's world, his skepticism began to waver. He was a man of science, trained to believe in the observable and the explainable. Yet here was Julia, defying all the laws of physics and human understanding. The darkness that enveloped her was palpable, a malevolent force that seemed to feed off her very essence. The decision to perform an exorcism was not taken lightly. The Catholic Church, cautious and meticulous in such matters, conducted a thorough investigation before granting permission. The rite of exorcism, an ancient ritual steeped in tradition and solemnity, was seen as the last resort to save Julia from the clutches of whatever held her. The exorcism was a harrowing ordeal. Julia, or the entity within her, fought with a ferocity that was bone-chilling. The priests, steadfast in their faith, battled not just for Julia's soul, but against the doubts and fears that such an encounter with the unknown evoked. Throughout the rite, Julia spoke in languages she had never studied, including Latin and Aramaic. Her body contorted in ways that defied explanation, her face transforming into a visage of pure malevolence. Witnesses described a chilling drop in temperature each time her voice morphed into the demonic growls, and an oppressive atmosphere filled the room, as if the very air was thick with malevolence. The entity inside Julia displayed a mocking attitude towards the religious rites. It would laugh in a disturbing, otherworldly tone at the prayers and react with violence at the sprinkling of holy water. The priests and Dr. Gallagher faced not only a physical battle, but a psychological one, as the entity attempted to exploit their fears and weaknesses. In one of the most chilling episodes, Julia levitated off the bed, her body rigid and suspended in midair, her eyes devoid of any human emotion. The sight was so unnerving that it sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned observers. This phenomenon, often relegated to the realm of fiction, was unfolding in stark, terrifying reality. As the exorcism progressed, the entity's hold on Julia intensified. Objects in the room would move of their own accord, and an acrid smell like sulfur permeated the space. Julia's voice, layered with an inhuman timbre, uttered threats and blasphemies, each word a testament to the darkness that resided within her. Despite the harrowing nature of the exorcism, moments of Julia's true self would surface. In these fleeting instances, she would cry out for help, a desperate plea from a soul trapped in a nightmare. But these moments were short-lived, quickly smothered by the entity's resurgence. The exorcism reached its climax in a final, intense confrontation. The priests, their energy nearly depleted, called upon every ounce of their faith. Julia, in the throes of the entity's fury, was a spectacle of both horror and pity. The air crackled with a palpable tension, as if the very fabric of reality was being stretched to its breaking point. Then, in an instant that seemed both an eternity and a fleeting moment, there was a shift. Julia's body, which had been rigid and levitating, collapsed onto the bed, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. The atmosphere in the room lightened, as if a suffocating weight had been lifted. The priests continued their prayers, their voices now filled with a renewed sense of urgency and hope. In the aftermath, Julia lay exhausted, her body and mind battered by the ordeal she had endured. Dr. Gallagher, who had entered this journey as a skeptic, found himself facing a new reality where the boundaries of science and faith intersected in ways he had never imagined. The exorcism of Julia did not conclude with grandiose cinematic flair, but in a quiet, almost anticlimactic manner. Yet, the impact of what had transpired in that room resonated deeply with all who were present. The entity, which had exhibited such power and malevolence, had been vanquished, but the echoes of its presence lingered. Julia's recovery was slow and fraught with challenges. The experience had left scars, both physical and psychological, that would take time to heal. For Dr. Gallagher, the case of Julia was a transformative experience, one that challenged his understanding of the world and opened his eyes to possibilities he had never before considered. The story of Julia's exorcism is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our understanding. It serves as a testament to the enduring struggle between light and darkness, between the physical and the spiritual, between science and the unexplainable. As we emerge from the shadow depths of these harrowing tales of real-life exorcisms, a chilling realization dawns upon us. The world we inhabit is not just made of what we see and understand. It is a tapestry woven with threads of the unknown, the unexplainable, and the terrifyingly real. These accounts, steeped in the macabre and the eerie, challenge not only our understanding of the world, but also our perception of the human spirit's resilience and vulnerability. They remind us that sometimes the most profound horrors are not found in fiction, but in the disturbing annals of real life, where demons, whether of the mind or of a more sinister realm, walk among us. So, as we conclude this journey into the abyss, an uncomfortable question lingers in the air, echoing in the silence of our darkest fears. What unseen forces might be lurking in the recesses of your own mind, waiting for a moment to manifest?